Hello, everybody. Welcome to our luminary session with Alison Armstrong. Alison, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
So great to see you. It's been a decade. I interviewed you a decade ago
Oh
when my
my
son
God.
was probably, a one and a half. So now he's almost 12.
Wow.
And I also did your whole curriculum in LA 17 years ago.
Okay. Yep, that's half of the time we've been doing workshops.
Yes.
Okay.
Which was so great. And you've become kind of part of our family. And it was my boyfriend. We got together and I was like, I want to do this. So he provided for me and was like, here's the money, go do it. Learn everything that you can. So, he did it or I did it. We did it together. And it was really amazing. And still to this day, we have many Alison things to say, which is so amazing.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Okay,
All right.
I'm gonna pause a moment, Kenny, so I can just look at people's faces. Okay,
Exactly.
there's
I was going to say, welcome,
David
everybody.
and is it Prakash? Prakash? Oh, very good. Kevin. Dana? Is it Dana? Okay, and Amanda and Wendy and Annie and Mark and Steve. Kazriel? How do you say your name? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Layla and Jean and Lori and then Tim. Hello. And then we have pictures. Okay. All right. Good to be with you all.
Yay. Let's just do a quick, for those of you that don't know about Alison, we have been talking about it for a couple of weeks in preparation for this. But Alison's exploration of human behavior began in 1991 when her decision to study men, to find out how women were bringing out the worst in them and hopefully how to bring out the best. Her success in understanding men naturally led to studying women's behavior and making vital connections between the two. And she is an author. She has an abundance of seminars, online programs that help people give access to more fulfilling lives, loving relationships, stronger families, and productive organizations. So this is also funny, Alison. I have this.
I can't. Oh, look, I put it on gallery view so I could see
Oh,
everybody's
it's
faces.
oh yeah. No,
Let
it's
me
celebrating
find.
partnership with Alison. It's a workbook
Oh,
from like
no. And you printed it all out from the PDF.
yes.
Look
It's
at you.
this has been with me for a long time.
Wow. Wow. Well, that so somehow almost everything I do becomes evergreen. Like it doesn't matter. The first Amazing Development of Men we recorded in 1997, it still stands, right? And that workbook, it's the only workbook I've ever created, and it that program's definitely still stands. I just recommended to somebody 2 days ago.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
cool. Good for you.
that is yeah, so fun. So I want to start off with the idea, which I love, that nobody is misbehaving. And I remember watching you at the seminar that I went to, and you were up there saying, what if nobody's misbehaving? And that women often see men as big, hairy, misbehaving women,
Mhm.
and that we have the idea of, well, I would do it. That's what I would do. So why are they not doing what I would do? They must be misbehaving. So can you talk about the misbehaving from men and women? How does that enlighten us?
Well, first, thank you for your accuracy. I think you're well aware of my commitment to precision. And yeah, what if? What if no one's misbehaving, including you? Because if you look at the word self-recrimination, which we as humans engage in a lot, both male and female, it has the word criminal in it. We treat ourselves like criminals, which
Mm-hmm.
what is a criminal? Someone who misbehaves, someone who their behavior isn't acceptable to most everybody else. And what if no one's misbehaving, which is a flip side of what if there's a good reason for that? And a man I know, how he phrased it was going from furious to curious. That our initial reaction to people doing things that are unthinkable or failing to do what to us is it's obvious. Just why should I have to say anything? It's obvious what you should have done. So all of the perceptions that we have, and we've been delving into this even more lately at a much more fundamental level, which has revealed new goodies in the area of what the disconnects that happen between men and women. We can talk about that if we want to. But yeah, the moment we think someone else is not doing the right thing, and then some people can't resist wondering why, right? And especially people with ovaries, we tend to take everything personally. If you respected me more or loved me more or cared about me more, you would have done the right thing, which is clearly what I would have done. And can I just back up to the thing I just alluded to?
Yeah, absolutely. This is your show.
That's so funny. No, it's not. It's yours. So I don't know how many years ago it is now, but I got to start working on it head on last year. But years ago, somebody said, and I wish I could credit them, they said the basis of the immune system is the differentiation between me and not me. And instantly I saw a sneeze. Like a sneeze is a huge not me reaction, right? You half the time you can't even tell it's coming. You just sneeze. Your body is rejecting what it perceives. This is not me. Don't let it in. And as I've been working on it like all the way back to what I think of the monstrosity of humanity, tribalism, prejudice, discrimination, genocide, um, competition that can be deadly. I mean, even anger can be attributed to a me not me reaction. And we have, when we perceive someone as a, oh, you're a me, right? You're a me, especially for women who depend more on a feeling of connectivity to feel safe. A me reaction, we lean into it. Oh, you're like me. You're just like me. And men tend to be the opposite. So we look at a man and we see a me who's misbehaving and needs to be fixed or trained or punished. Men tend to look at women and see not me, and then they lean into the not me because the not me is, not only is it intriguing, but the thing that popped up a couple of weeks ago, it's in the middle of a long road trip, and it just showed up in my car, and I, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Um, Everybody's also scanning for strength. We're constantly scanning for strength. And as you know, with being the weaker, smaller gender and millennia of being overcome physically, we're looking for strength to be protected, but we're also afraid it's going to be used against us. And we think, which has to do with not understanding how men are put together as heroes, we think whether or not that strength is used for or against us depends upon the quality of the connection that we're experiencing. And so we're afraid when we don't feel connected, it's going to be used against us. And especially if there's a disconnect from like a contentious conversation, we have a lot of fear shows up in that disconnect. Whereas men are also scanning for strength, but as I don't know if you know Sean Callaghy is from Unblinded, but as he pointed out to me, Tom Brady is not looking for another phenomenal quarterback. He's looking for complementary strength,
Mhm.
right? And so men, whether they know it or not, I would assert men are filling teams. Men are constantly filling their team to be more productive. And they may only want one other team member, or they may want a lot of other team members, but it's certainly something they're looking for in a romantic relationship. They're looking for complementary strength. And as long as we're productive, right? Being feeling secure through productivity instead of feeling safe through connectivity, as long as a conversation's productive, we got somewhere. Who cares if it was contentious? Who cares if we raised our voices? What does that matter? Look at all that we accomplished. Having no idea the effect on the stay connected no matter what part of the population. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it, feel it, and live it.
Yes. Yep. So what if no one's misbehaving? What if all of that makes perfect sense and us getting bent out of shape when we're disconnected, we're not misbehaving, we're not being difficult? What if it doesn't matter how something goes as long as it's productive? And why do we have to pay attention to connectivity? Let's just keep getting this done. Let's get connected later. No, let's get connected before, right? What if none of that is misbehavior either? And then we can make these little adjustments to have opposing instincts become complementary again.
Yeah, that's great. I love the where you talk about, and I've heard you say this before, men love to solve problems, right? So as you're talking about it, like, this is a problem, like, who cares if we're, and my husband and I have this conversation often because he is like, let's dive in. I'm not afraid of conflict. I will be intense. And I'm like, and he's great
Yeah.
at solving problems. Like, he is really great at solving problems. But as you said before, a lot of times they're great at solving a problem, but they don't love when we think they're the problem, which we can do pretty easily, right? We need to have a
Don't
talk about your problem and what you need to do.
Well, it's interesting because both of those you stated rather mildly. Um, I would say it's so far beyond love solving problems. It's it's gotta solve problems. It's compulsive problem solving. It's what do you mean just listen? How the heck is that going to solve a problem? Right? So, like in our Understanding Women online course, we're teaching men how listening can solve a lot of problems and save a lot of lives. And yeah, so it's way more than love solving problems. And it's way worse. What did you say? They don't love what? They don't.
When we have them be the problem.
Ah, no, they would hate that. To them, that is a disaster. How did I become the problem? Aren't we? That means we're not on the same team anymore. And we have the same reaction. That's it. That's not just a man reaction. That's a human reaction. Oh, don't be so emotional. What do you mean, don't be so emotional? This deserves this kind of emotion. But I mean, emotions and feelings are a whole other area of fascination to me because when I started bioidentical hormone therapy about 7 years ago now, I would say, I kind of I was more receptive to testosterone than my doctor predicted. And so my numbers were through the roof and I got angry and my body felt like an atomic bomb. I really thought it was going to blow and take out the entire valley. And that was my first inkling. This is why men are so proud of having a grip on their emotions. This is why men can have an adversary relationship with their body because their body contains these really intense emotions that are not to be trusted. Oh boy. I suspect that men actually experience most things more intensely than women do, which is, yeah, which is why they're so afraid of the rage monster. They think the rage monster is the tip of the iceberg, like their anger that they show us is the tip of the iceberg. They're hanging on to the rest for dear life.
Hmm.
And and our fire breathing dragon is the worst it gets. That's not the tip of the iceberg. That's the whole iceberg. Once you know that about a woman, this is it. This is as bad as it gets. Okay,
Right.
how do we diffuse this? Right? Honey, clearly I hurt your feelings. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. Whatever I did. The fire goes out. But you gotta mean it.
Yeah, that brings me to, which is funny that you said that, because this is I'll say a debate that my husband and I have in our good moments. But then the feelings thing, when we did your workshop, right, where you talked about feelings and you were
Mhm.
like, my feelings were hurt, right? My husband's super intense, super passionate, very driven, like, very strong masculine. So in those conversations, my feelings would get hurt, and you gave language to what I was feeling. And at the break, I was like, that was so great. And he's like, I don't believe it. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm not responsible for your feelings. That's a victim mentality. If your feelings are hurt. So then we had this whole intellectual debate, and we were there with another couple, and they were like, come on, just give it to her. So I had this aha, and he had, I'm not responsible for your feelings. So it's a rub that we have sometimes. And I'm like, it would just dissolve it. Wouldn't you just want to do it just to dissolve my hurt feelings?
Well, can I help?
Yeah, I'm sure.
What's her husband's first name?
Brian.
Ryan. Okay.
Brian with a B.
With a V. Brian with a
Yeah.
V. Brian's right. He's not responsible for your feelings. And women try to make people responsible for their feelings, and humans try to make other people, like, you made me mad.
Mhm.
Really? You hurt my feelings. Really? You disrespected me. Really? Well, if we want to have a really conversation, we're just going to be stuck,
Yep.
because yes, something happened, and how I interpreted what happened hurt my feelings. And in the worst moments, it was shocking what happened. And my interpretation of why it happened could have been immediately, or it could be a slow burn that 48 hours later I'm curled up in a ball somewhere. But the point of my work isn't who's right. The point of my work is being in partnership.
Mhm.
And part of being in partnership is the willingness, even the commitment to save your partner from the things that take them out. So when we're in a productivity mode, often called masculine, right, or committed state of mind, a hunting state of mind, survival depends on productivity, which depends upon respect. It depends on respect. And if you don't trust me, you don't respect me. So it's all trust and respect. And so when we ask a man, for example, what should I do? And he tells us, and then we don't, to them, that's hugely disrespectful. They wouldn't have told us what to do if they weren't willing to be accountable for the results. And if you weren't going to do what I said, why'd you ask me in the first place and waste my time? So, and men will give us the best of what they've got when we ask them for advice. If they're willing to give it to us, they'll give us from a lifetime of experience, and as much as possible try to honor our values when they know they're different than us. Well, given what you care about, you probably should do this, which isn't what I would have done, but
Mhm.
given what you care, right? So they even try to be honoring that way. But when oftentimes, and this happened with my husband, I was at the airport renting a car, and I said, they've got a Ford and a Mitsubishi, and I needed an SUV. It was snowing, or I was in Colorado, and which one should I get? And he said, I think you'll be happier with the Ford. I wanted to try the Mitsubishi. So I rented the Mitsubishi and he heard me. He heard me because the lady across the counter asked me, and I said, "Give me the Mitsubishi." Well, normally he would connect with me in Colorado as soon as possible because was so happy. This is where we lived here full time. I was so happy, and he just like call in to get some nectar of the gods, right? And I didn't hear from him for hours and hours. And when I called him, he was like ice. And like, did I do something? You disrespected me. And I did what girls do. So men, just check this out, okay? We have as much trouble with being told we disrespected somebody as men have trouble with you hurt my feelings. Because we'll check our bodies, which I did. I checked my body to see in that moment when I chose the Mitsubishi, did I feel any disrespect in my body? No, I still felt no disrespect for my husband. How could he be disrespected without me feeling disrespect?
Mhm.
Just like men think, how could I have hurt your feelings? I didn't punch you in the chest.
Yeah.
I didn't. They're trying to fight with truth and logic. Let's pay attention to what actually happened here.
Oh.
All I did was this. All I said was this. Right? And and men have a huge belief in intent. How could I have hurt your feelings without the intent to hurt your feelings? Well, that's why it's called noble healing. Noble comes from the same word that means generous. So to say, I'm sorry, hurt your feelings, knowing full well that the other person's interpretation is what caused that cascade of thoughts and feelings, but to say that just because it works and to mean it.
Mhm.
You know, one man worked his way around to being able to say it and mean it by deciding if he'd never been born, it wouldn't have happened. That's how he could be truthful about it. If he's never been born, it wouldn't have happened. I'm so sorry. I hurt your feelings. But it truly is magical because it's honoring the other person's reality. You could say in old S days, we would have called it recreation. It's matching, it's recreating what's real for them. And that is honoring. When you'll honor someone else's reality without regard for what, do I have to agree with it? Do I have to understand it fully? No, I can just have compassion for that's what's real for them in this moment.
Mhm.
Now, on the other side, Alexandra, if afterwards we don't take responsibility, it's not going to happen more than this. Honey, thank you so much.
Mhm.
And I'm so sorry I interpreted what you did that way. I know you've
Mhm.
never meant to hurt my feelings. I know you would never disregard me in that regard. And if something happened, you had a good reason for it. And I'm sorry that I interpreted that about you, because that's the other part of it. When we're accused of having done something to hurt someone, we're aghast that they've forgotten who we are. And that hurts, right? It's a double whammy.
Mhm.
And like you're accusing me of disrespecting you, right? When Greg said that, I just rented a Mitsubishi. I didn't disrespect my husband, the father of my children, my hero, the biggest hero in my life. Well, if that was how it was for him, then okay. I'm sorry disrespecting you. Would you please tell me how I did?
Yeah.
That's the trail to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, now could we figure out how to not have this happen again? And that's
Mhm.
how I learned to not ask a man, what should I do if I wasn't willing to do what he told me? To always say, this is a decision that I have to make. And before I make it, I'm wondering if you have any input or a question I should ask or a criteria I should consider before I make this decision for myself. You're not offering accountability to him, which we don't even know we are when we ask men, what should we do? Um, we're very clearly, you're not taking responsibility for this and how would you guide me?
Hmm.
Instead, how would you take care of me? You know, Greg had spent 25 years or something at that point paying attention to what made me happy. I think he'll be happier. He's pretty much an expert on things that made me
Hmm.
happy.
Right.
Is this making sense?
Oh, it's so great. And it's, yes, I love it. And I also love because you so know, you so know partnership, right? That I had never made that
Right.
distinction and the connection between the exact words that Brian will say in the opposite, the flip side. You disrespected me. And I'm like, and I don't follow your advice. I'm like, disrespect? Like, what? How is that a disrespect? I did not disrespect you.
How could I have? I feel no disrespect in any part of my body. How could I have? Now,
Person.
there's another part that's really important too, and because the thing about hurt feelings, right, is they're the bullseye words, right, and recreating how it is for the other person. And I've I've been working on this for a long time, and I become responsible as quickly as I can because I know
Mhm.
that's where my sanity and freedom lies. And so, like, I will say to, I think you know, Greg passed five
I
years
do, yeah.
ago. So
So
I'll
sorry.
say to my boyfriend, I thank you. I'll say to Dan, sometimes I'll say, you hurt my feelings. And he'll say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. But sometimes I'll say, I got my feelings hurt.
Hmm.
And if he says, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, it's like, no. If I am saying I got my feelings hurt, could you please say you're sorry? I am owning as much as I can. When I say I got my feelings hurt, I'm saying I know you didn't do it. I know it happened over here, but I still need magic words.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now he's tuned into if I say I got my feelings hurt, he says, I'm so sorry you got your feelings hurt. Is there anything that I did? And he'll check, but he'll be honoring of that I am owning as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Beautiful. And I think that's the distinction also that as you were talking, is that feeling of owning it. But then for me, there's a vulnerability of me saying you hurt my feelings,
Oh
right?
God.
Of like, so there's I don't really want to say it because I'm super strong and like, I don't, my feelings aren't hurt. But if I check in with my body, there is hurt feelings happening here. There is like, help. And so for,
Yes.
as you're saying that, it was like, oh, it's an act of courage to say that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Which is why I recommend a shorthand because when we're shocked with our
Yeah.
feelings being deeply hurt, language is one of the first thing that goes. And
Mhm.
so just to be able to eke out an ouch
Mhm.
as I'm falling off a cliff, ouch. Um, Wesley in The Princess Bride, as you wish, as he's tumbling down the hill, right? Um, yeah, if we can do that and we can have a pact to
Mhm.
do to
Mhm.
have a code word and come save the other person. But it really only will work if you end up with a lot of credit for having saved the other person.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay, okay, give me a moment. Okay. Sometimes Dan will be like, do you need to cry it out? Yeah, could you just hold me while I defrag and pull myself back together? Oh, oh. But if we don't get credit, if it's like you owe me,
Mhm.
you did something wrong, you were misbehaving, you did something wrong, and you owe me, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. When you just did something and I interpreted it as you don't love me, you don't care about me, you don't respect me. Uh, I if they don't get credit for that, you saved me when you were accused of something that wasn't true. They anybody who does it, whether it's male, female, girlfriends, I'm so sorry I hurt your feelings. I had to do this with one of my dearest friends, I'm so sorry I didn't check that with you. I'm sorry I disrespected you in the way that I treated that part of the document. I'm so sorry for that. And it helped her to know I didn't intend to disrespect you. She said,
Mhm.
thanks for that. But I
Mhm.
also apologize for in her world, she was disrespected.
Mhm. Mhm.
But again, this is in the domain of partnership and we're on the same team and it's not my power or your power, it's our power. And if one of us is taken out by experiencing being disrespected or their feelings hurt, that's taking our power. So how can
Mhm.
I help you get yours back?
Mhm.
Magic words that honor your reality, but I don't have to be less than to do that.
Mhm.
It's a way of being a hero, that's for sure. It's
Mhm.
definitely a way of being
Yeah, and then I love you that you also talk about the appreciation, right? The gratitude, the thank you, because that's also missing in partnership. It can, unless you practice it, right? There's like an entitlement, and then you're I've always loved that about you. You like celebrate, appreciate, like you are over the top. That is like your way of being and relating. And I think that's really, can you just talk about that too? Because I think it is, we can look at the misbehaving and all the challenges, but how much celebration and appreciation of the other is so vital for a heroic partnership.
oh
So
boy.
sorry to interrupt.
And
Allison, your camera is slightly out of focus. It happened just a moment ago.
okay, 1 second. It helps if I just stop the video and start it again. It usually fixes it. Did it fix it?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. I hide myself view. My gesturing is too distracting to myself. So I didn't know what happened. Feel free to interrupt. Um, okay, so if I may first, because everything you're asking is so beautiful. And as you know, I have hours and hours and hours I could do on any of it. Um, and something that you may not have participated in our online curriculum is called Lux. Have you done that,
No, I
Alexandra?
have not done that yet. No.
Oh my gosh. So it stands, Lux is the Latin word for light, and
Mhm.
it stands for liberation, understanding, and extraordinary relationships. It's only 8 hours, but it changes everything.
Mhm.
And what it had, there's no prerequisites, but what I did is I took work from our partnership level, some of our most advanced work, and I brought it to an introductory program. And the part that I brought forward is called a process of honoring. And how it's taught in Lux is in the context of honor yourself first or all is lost.
Mhm.
And it has to do with how every one of us has about 1,000 times more information about ourselves at any moment than anyone else could even guess.
Mhm.
And if we're not honoring all the information our system is giving us about us, if we're not honoring it and speaking up about it, having it be known where it'll make a difference, other people don't have a chance. So it starts with partnering with yourself and a process of honoring. So it goes through these different steps and they're all distinguished. And we also do a bunch of release work to separate it from an instinctual
Mhm.
need for, say, respect. We have an instinctual need for respect, and we'll sell our souls for it, versus respect in the context of honoring as a choice,
Mhm.
right? So always separating those. But so one of the steps in a process of honoring is support and appreciation. And I bring that up because they're put together. And this is something I learned from men. I'd ask men, what has you experienced being supported? And they'd say, well, I feel appreciated when. And in the beginning, I corrected them. No, I'm asking about support.
Mhm.
And then I'd say, what has you feel appreciated? Well, I feel supported when. And I mean, this happened again and again and again. I'd ask about support, they'd answer about appreciation. I'd ask about appreciation, they answer about support. Okay, support feels like appreciation, and appreciation feels like support.
Mhm.
Okay, let's just put those together. Well, so there's way more about that in Lux. And then there's something else on our website under shop products called the appreciation equation. And it's one of the most important things for us to understand because appreciation is fuel. It's literally fuel. It's literally putting the wood in the fireplace, and that's how you're going to end up with fire. And even if you've ever gotten uh, something that asked you for something, and like a note that said thank you in advance, right? Like there was starting with appreciation. It's interesting. And most people in families, in romantic relationships, and in the business world, it's huge in the business world, their biggest complaints will be a lack of appreciation. And what the appreciation equation teaches, there's two parts. One is you can actually predict behavior based on someone's experience of appreciation. If someone, because we're driven to equalize them. That's why it's called the appreciation equation. We're driven to equalize. We want as much appreciation as we think we've given the value for, that we've earned. And if we don't get appreciated according to the value we have assigned to what we did, then we'll figure out a way to take back. And we might take back by bad mouthing. We might take back by giving less next time, but charging as much. We might take back by pilfering or embezzling. It's really normal human behavior. Or if we feel overappreciated, like you just appreciated me more than I deserve, well, how can I give you more? Or if I can't give you more, I'll give it to somebody else and like, why are you giving me this? I'm very blessed. Please just accept it. Can you say we're driven that way? This is good people, which is almost all people are good people. But the tricky part is currency. And this is where men and women miss all the time. Not just between the genders, but with each other. And that is appreciation is literally, it comes in different currencies. And if you're not paying me appreciation in my currency, it's as if it didn't happen. And it can get even worse than that. Like I've done an informal survey on how many people, and you'll see this in Lux, how many people public appreciation does it for you, like just over the top to be appreciated in public. And about a third of the audience raises their hand. And then I'll ask, and how many of you, it does nothing for you? About a third of the audience raises their hand. How many of you it's worse than nothing? About a third of the audience raises their hand. Well, people who love public appreciation tend to give public appreciation, not knowing that for 2/3 of the people, it's going to be nothing or worse. Yeah.
What's the worst?
What do you mean?
What you said, it's worse? What, can you talk a little bit, like what is their experience?
Oh my gosh. I was just talking to a man from Australia about this about a month ago. In the Australian culture, being called attention to publicly is a violation of their standard of modesty and humility. And so to be appreciated publicly is mortifying. And for others, it's just like, it just seems like the person's grandstanding. You know, I would rather have a note or a raise or just a pat on the back when I went by, or you say good morning to me, jerk. Treat me like I'm not there, but then acknowledge me in the company meeting. Like, no. So the appreciation equation has lists of currencies of appreciation that we've discovered in personal relationships, in the workplace, and you even rate it. You even rate it by from 1 to 5. What are the things that really ring your bell? And then you rate the other side. What kind is hard to give? because you might be with someone who their highest currencies of appreciation are the hardest for you to express.
Mhm.
Well, if they know that and you're doing it anyway, knowing it's hard for you, now it counts for 5 times as much because you're willing to express appreciation the way I need it. Can you see it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yes,
But
definitely.
it literally is fuel. And women who've like read the Queen's Code, for example, or even better, listen to the audiobook and like, well, so I was doing what it said, and then my husband was doing this thing, and then he stopped. Well, why doesn't it work? Well, did you appreciate it? What do you mean? Anything you want to keep happening
Mhm.
has to be appreciated, or it wasn't worth doing. And anything that will keep happening without being appreciated, that's something somebody does out of a sense of duty or what they're getting out of it in the transaction. But
Mhm.
it's not partnership. It's not giving and receiving, which is where all the magic happens.
Mhm. Fascinating. I love that. Good stuff. I've done that course, but I'm gonna have to go back to it because it was years ago. So that's amazing. That is really, really helpful and insightful. And then, like you said, it's the self-awareness, how important self-awareness is to start, that we know what we need and what we want and how we want to be appreciated. And then we can, because we project so much onto somebody else when we're not even clear or we don't know that, like that's can be messy.
Yeah, and it also, and this tends to affect men more than women because men tend to be much more aware of the expenditure of limited resources. So
Mhm.
time and energy, especially. And and it's ay ay ay. Wait, there's something I was gonna say and then I forgot. Oh, so there's men will even say there's no point to stating the obvious. So whatever's obvious seems a waste of time to state. And it's not just men. Like the trash needing to be taken out is obvious. Why should I have to tell you it's time to take it out?
Mhm.
But what determines obviousness isn't the same for all of us. And we have a program called Your Hidden Dominant Drivers. So what you do is obvious. Why you do it is not obvious. And but it creates obviousness. Our big whys creates the obviousness of why we do what we do. And we've identified 6, potentially have 7 different main hidden drivers of people's behavior, including the purpose of being in a romantic relationship. But it creates obviousness. And many of the biggest fights that we have are over the other person not doing what obviously needed to be done. Well, obviously we do that. We baffle men by not doing what's obvious. And men piss us off by not doing what's obvious. Men are a little bit more forgiving, unless there's danger. If they perceive danger, their reaction will be huge. The protect instinct, the reactions are huge. Obviously, we would do that. That's what's safer.
Mhm.
It was my 50th birthday. Greg was so mad at me. And I was like, why are you mad at me? He goes, how can I protect you when you're in front of me? I realized, oh, we came through security. I was tying my shoes and packing my bag while looking at the departure screen to find out which direction our gate was in. So I was multitasking, life use awareness, right? I'm doing one thing, paying attention to the next step, getting all organized, paying attention to another thing, and then I took off. Greg was being single focused. He put his shoes on. Then he gathered his things. Then he was ready to look at the departure screen. And his wife has disappeared. And like I wrote an article after that called Waiting for the Hero. We have to wait for our heroes so they can get out in front of us.
Fascinating. I mean, there's so many places I want to go on there, but you're gonna have to look up diffuse awareness and single task focus, all of that. But yes, and I do want to get into the hero because
Yeah,
our company's heroic. Our goal is to be heroes and to have strength for two, and that shows up differently for everyone, right? Like, what is your unique hero's journey? But I'm curious because this is one of your words, is that men want to be heroes to the women in their life. And sometimes women can see that, but sometimes they don't see that, and we can miss that. And I remember that was so when I had shared that with Brian 17 years ago, and to this day, it's been super impactful. That he was like, "Yeah, that is right. She's right. She's right."
yeah. Well, I wrote down strength for two because I heard that when you said it the first time, and I think that's an amazing way to look at anything, actually. And as in, what are our capacities at any moment, and are we giving ourselves what we need in order to have bigger capacities to take care of more than just ourselves? And I notice this everywhere. I notice people buying cat and dog food. Like that's such an expression of abundance and capacity that you could take care of critters too, right? Bird seed, such an expression of capacity. Um, so if I may, and I know you've heard this, Alexandra, but for the others, I started studying men in 1991 when my colleague was called a frog farmer, as in a woman who turns princes into frogs instead of frogs into princes. And my life flashed before me, and I had the realization that I was doing something that was bringing out the worst in men, and that I thought that's who men are. I didn't know I had anything to do with what was happening. I thought this is men. And so I set out to find out, what this question popped in my head. What if men are responding to women? Well, within just a few days, I had this idea that, you know what, maybe it'll never work out. Maybe what women want from men, men just don't want to be. And I was thinking about, well, what do we want from men? And I thought about, I mean, we're raised on princesses and heroes, that rides in on the white horse and saves the day and saves us. And wasn't I supposed to be issued my own personal hero? When you grow up and get married, how many times did I hear that? When you grow up and get married, when you grow up and get married, I thought all I had to do was grow up to get married. I didn't know there was anything else required. I would grow up, I'd be issued a husband, he'd be my knight in shining armor, he'd be my hero. That didn't turn out that way. I was married. He didn't really care what I needed. And I didn't know why. That was a whole other journey. But so I thought maybe that's the problem. Women want a hero and men don't want to be it. So at the time, I was coaching 3 men to supplement my nonprofit income. And I asked one of the men, I said, if you could be anything for a woman you loved, what would you be? And no other preamble, just asked him that. If you could be anything for a woman you loved, what would you be? And there was this long silence, and at least I already caught on to, if I want an answer, I better wait. Wait for the well, listen. And after a while, he said, if I could be anything for a woman I loved, I'd be her hero. And I was floored. I was like, really? Thank goodness it was on the phone. And there was a long silence. And I thought, okay, now he's revising it. He's going to dial back. And then he said, well, actually, if I could be a hero for all the women I love, that's what I'd want to be. Really? Right? Like, no, it wasn't just a romantic relationship. Really? There's another one. And then another long silence. And now I thought for sure he's dialing back. And instead, he said, and it was so, his voice was like really cute, right? Like he's like, he's Mr. an expert and he knows everything. And he said, well, to tell you the truth, if I could be the hero of every woman I encountered every day, that would be nirvana. It's like, wait a second. We want a hero. We want to be a hero. This should work. I sit in my office going, this should work. This should work. And then this question popped into my head. I now recognize this as how I'm guided from a much higher consciousness. And the question was, well, when was the last time I let a man be my hero? And then that was oh no. And like just an instant replay of, I can do that myself. No, I don't need you to do that. I can do that. I can do that myself. I can do that myself. And how many things I was proving I could do myself, and I didn't need anybody, let alone a man, to do that for me. And men would have to fight me to be my hero. There's so much proving going on. And, as you know, in Understanding Men course, we invite women to decide, have you proven enough? Have you proven you can open a door enough? Have you proven you can load your suitcase enough? Have you proven you can support yourself financially enough? Have you proven all that enough? Could you retire and let a man contribute to you because he wants to, not because he thinks you need him to do that, or life's going to fall apart? So letting men be heroes, waiting for the hero, just wait a little bit longer. He'll tell you how he feels if you wait long enough. He can be your hero, being in intimacy that way. You just have to listen a heck of a lot longer.
You have to listen longer. Can you elaborate on
that? I call it waiting for the well. And I've gotten to work with couples and have them practice this, and it's just a miracle. And it has to do with the difference in the way that most men and most women listen. And when a woman asks a man a question, the first step in him answering the question is committing to the question. And some questions are a little commitment. Do you want chicken or fish? Some questions require more commitment. Where do you think we should go on vacation? And so the first thing he does is commit to the question. Wow, that's a really good question. Where should we go on vacation? Wow, I really need to think about that. And that takes time because they want to give you a real answer, not just off the top of their head answer. But usually we'll ask a question like that, like, where should we go on vacation? Oh man, I should really think about that. Well, where do you want us to go on vacation? That's a completely different question. Where should we go? That's safety and currency rates and how much time do we have? Want to go? Want to go? Where do I want to go? It's a completely different question. Well, should we go to Mexico or Costa Rica? Oh, she's already decided. I just have two options. She didn't really care what I thought. But we gotta wait. We gotta come. This is what I'd say. Don't ever ask a man a question that you're not willing to wait for the answer. And for many men, like, Dan's 66 years old. He'll ask me a question, and if I don't answer right away, he's off and running. And I'm left with my feelings hurt. That he asked me a question I really wanted to answer, but he didn't even remember that he asked me it. So he must not really care. That's what we make up. Mm-hmm. But, at our age, our hormones are swapping. He has more diffuse awareness and I have more single focus. So I'm the one that needs somebody to wait for my answer. It keeps life interesting, let's get it all worked out and then swap.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, we're still working on it. I'm in the diffuse awareness, clearly. Mother just diffuse awareness,
Mhm.
45. But I never thought about that shifting. And then you get a whole new territory to learn and how to be in partnership as well.
Yeah, I mean, our brains literally reconfigure based on our hormones. Men's testosterone levels naturally fall off, the walls come down, the verbal centers get connected to all the other parts of the brain. All of a sudden, they're spouting poetry and talking about their feelings. Their wisdom is connected to their mouths now, and they have a whole lot that they can tell us about what could be done and should be done. And it someone who might have been thought as quiet or reticent, all of a sudden they have so much to say. And it's the brain we configured. And then when I became more single focused, my youngest daughter, because I was 35 when she was born. So, I'm 50 years old and menopause is come and gone. And so the estrogen is plumb run out and my brain is reconfigured. And my daughter was so hurt, she thought I was ignoring her. She'd be sitting at the dining room table doing homework, I'd be washing dishes, and she thought I was ignoring her. She didn't know that my brain, like any single focused human being, you commit to something, your brain screens out everything it considers irrelevant, including her voice. And it's actually most men's first protection against criticism. They don't even hear it.
Seems like a good thing.
It seems like a good thing, yeah. In understanding women, I teach that men have 4 layers of protection against criticism. And because I completely missed the most obvious one. The first one is your focus prevents you from even hearing the snarky comment. Men are really lucky that way.
Fascinating. Okay, I have one more question. I have so many questions, but we have not talked about here at Heroic, as far as I know, intimacy, chemistry, and sexuality. So can you talk to us? I mean, I'd be curious on the phases of relationship, right? How easy it is the first, when you first get together, there's the chemistry and the intimacy, and there's the wow, this is amazing. And then as you get older, like it's not as well. My experience is that it's just a little bit different, and you were with Greg for 30 plus years. So how do you, 38?
28. Yeah.
28, yeah.
Yep.
And
Sorry.
what is it with chemistry and intimacy and sexuality? And I know this is like probably a whole workshop. And if it is, tell us where to go. But what is it? Because I feel like you are the perfect person to kind of enlighten us on this.
So the place to go, I just recorded it in February.
Okay.
And it's under shop products, and it should be called Looking for Chemistry and Connection.
Okay.
And it actually ties back to what I was talking about, that our perception of someone being like me or not like me has a profound effect on chemistry and connection. And once you understand how it works, you literally can cause either one at will. It's all a matter of perception. If you want to feel connected, look for how is this person like me? And then if you want to have chemistry, how is this person strong? How is this person stronger than me? How is this person stronger than
men and women?
What?
Men and women? That's for men and women? Like women look for men, but men look for strength in women too?
Complementary strength.
Okay.
Self-confidence and authenticity, the most attractive qualities in women. It has men fall in love with us and want to take care of us.
Yeah.
A perception of strength, not weakness, has them want to take care of us. So yeah, if you want to go there, it breaks it all down, and then what questions to be asking in order to cause yourself to feel more connected or to feel more chemistry for another person. Because my highest value is freedom, which means the power to choose. I do not want to be at the effect of needing to feel connected and not being able to cause it, or being overwhelmed by chemistry and not being able to get myself back. Too much chemistry is not good for anybody. It brings out our most primitive reactions, and it's not heroic.
Mhm,
It,
mhm,
it brings out take, not take care of. So, and intimacy has everything to do with being seen. And so, like in Lux, in a process of honoring, starts with respect, and then leads to seeking, which leads to being seen. And most of us want to be seen, but only by some people. And but we're kind of, it's hide and seek. I want you to see me while I'm hiding from you. So speaking to be seen, actually causing others to see who you are by what you're saying and why you're saying it, when the natural human default is to conceal. So warriors, warriors conceal everything that can be used against them, and women are warriors too. And women in a feminine mode will conceal anything that we think is unattractive, unless we're in an environment amongst women who are afraid that they think that we think that we're perfect, and therefore they hate us and they're going to leave us to be eaten by a tiger. Then we show them a flaw that will make us more attractive. We
Hmm.
even reveal weaknesses in order to be more attractive. Instinctual behavior, mostly unconscious, messes everything up.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we have, I think, understanding sex and intimacy is about 12 to 14 hours worth in our online curriculum. So obviously there's a whole lot more to say about it, but if you want to just cut to the chase of something, it's less than 2 hours long, looking for
Mhm.
chemistry and connection.
Mhm. Brilliant. I love that. I love the chemistry and the connection, and that you can cause both of those.
You can,
Also, I
absolutely,
love your story
including
with
when there's too much, you can reduce it. If you know you're hooked by chemistry, physical response to somebody, and it's making you stupid,
Mhm.
go looking for things about them that cause you to have less respect and admiration for them, that has you think less of them. Go looking for what you see as weakness, and it will dampen that crazy combination of testosterone and epinephrine, which is what
Mhm.
chemistry is. It's a literal cocktail in
Yeah.
our, it's an emotion.
Mhm. And that's what most people are going for, right? Oh, I don't have chemistry with them. And when you have chemistry with somebody, you think it's it. But you've talked about with Greg, you did not have chemistry with Greg at the beginning, and you cultivated it with him.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time. Um, it was later I could distinguish it, but
Mhm.
chemistry set in. The first thing I noticed something about him that was strength. It was his hand.
Mhm.
These hands that had these like muscles like a lion's paw, and then these long, intelligent, soon to find out piano channeling music fingers. And I had a visceral response to his hand.
Mhm.
It was a good place to start.
Yeah.
And yeah, good place to wrap up too with him. Anyhow, it was like 1 minute before when I think your Q&A was supposed to start, when you asked me a huge
No,
question.
yeah, let's check in. Do we have questions?
That was a question. I know this is part of the deal. I signed up for it.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Kim.
Allison.
Keep
This
me
is
hesitant.
yes, great, Kimmy. I was hoping that you were here. Um, go for it, Kimmy. Give it to us.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing so much wisdom. Uh, there are so many gems that you've talked about, and I'm blown away by, I've read the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and that really opened up my eyes. But the way that you describe things is so different and really telling. I, I got coached by Alexandra 2 weeks ago, and I'm 44 years old, single, online dating, and and also, you know, available to anybody who I meet in public. But that usually doesn't happen with the right people. So when I say the right, I'm specific in my requests, you know, and sometimes I wonder if this, I would love to hear your opinion on, am I too closed-minded, or, you know, when you say being authentic, this is me owning my authenticity. So for me, it's, you know, I'm heroic, so I don't really drink alcohol. I have healthy habits. I would like to be with a Christian man because I also want to give birth to a healthy, natural baby. And that's something that's, you know, I realize with my age, we talked about that, Alexandra. So all these things are important to me, and I believe in marriage. And so, you know, I'm intentionally dating. And one big question for me is kind of like, you know, it would be nice to have permission to embrace what I'm open for. And then the second thing is, what are your thoughts on couples who have a lot in common and they get along really well, and they, you know, make it up to a certain point, and they continue to have, so they have great communication, and they, you know, you're butting heads a lot. And so what would you say, what would you advise as a solution? Like, buy your courses, go see a therapist? I would love to know your thoughts on that. So those two things. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh boy. I have 42 deal breakers. Stand alone deal breakers. Every single one of them is required. And I encourage everybody to figure this out. Figure it out in a romantic relationship, figure it out in your work situation, figure it out in the home you're going to occupy. What are you better off with or better off without? And we distinguish it in two different ways. One would be, what are the qualities you need someone to generate being? Like that is who they are. And then how do you need them to behave in the parts of your life? Well, then in all the parts of your life, they're good, because obviously you're not going to be part of your life that isn't important to you. So all the parts in your life where they may participate. So for example, how they relate to my kids, how they relate to my work, how they relate to their health, how they relate to money, how they relate to causing their own life. So I have 23 of those, 23 behaviors. I have 19 ways of being and 23 behaviors. And it's come from long experience of seeing what drives me nuts, what brings out the absolute worst in me when someone is or isn't a particular way, or when someone behaves in a particular way. I am not going to be the person I'm committed to being. And so it starts with taking a stand for yourself. I am this person, like you were just expressing to me. This is who I am. This is what I require from anyone who's going to be this important to me. And if you're not this, I am literally better off without you. And so that takes a lot of thought. We have a couple of things that could help. Again, I'm not trying to sell a bunch of stuff. I've just recorded hours on this, but dating with distinctions, there's 10 hours in dating with distinctions that will help you see what's never going to work. There's one part's called the myths of progression, because there's all kinds of things we believe about how relationships progress that isn't true. There's even ways to have online dating apps work for you, including something I call simple sorting, which is for men and women, immediately find out, is this person attracted to you in the kind of way that they're gonna care about what you need? Or are they only attracted to you in the kind of way that they want to take from you? And physical and economic attraction is going to cause taking. Seeing something special in you, which is often the word that's used, causes giving. And the way to find out is immediately, and I recommend this to everyone, before you're ever, if you haven't met them in person, if you're meeting them online or through a friend or something, before you ever are physically with them, just for the saving of time and energy and resources and your heart, but also physical safety, tell them something that you need. Tell them something that you need and see how they respond. So someone reaches out to you in online dating. Oh, yay, you like me too. What I would need next is to set up a time to talk. And when we talk, I would be pleased, I'd be honored, I'd be delighted if you would say more about any of these things that I saw in your profile, or any of these things that Susie told me about you. And so you're letting them know this is not an interrogation. I've asked groups of men, how many questions does it take to make an interrogation? The answer is one. One question makes an interrogation. So instead, here's a playground. I'd love to hear more about your alma mater, how you chose your career. What's your favorite thing about being a dad? What's your, just you just are offering, you can go on the swings or the slide, whatever you want. I would be pleased. And by the way, any of these questions are also safe to ask me. So now you've invited them not to an inquisition, you've invited them to a conversation, and you will find out by how they respond to that. First, you'll find out, do they read? Or do they act like that never happened? Do they follow instructions? Or do they act like that didn't happen? Do they attack you? What do you need that for? Wow, you're pushy. The end. They don't respond to the request. The end. They have anything other than, yay, let's set up a time to talk. That sounds like fun. The end. Just the end. If someone's not willing to have a conversation with you, they're just trying to get with you physically. They're just trying to get with you as soon as possible. How does anybody have a relationship over any length of time if you can't talk? So that would be the first thing I'd say. And so dating with the distinctions, we'll talk about that. Connecting through conflict, these go really well together, especially in your self-discovery, because it'll distinguish the 4 main types of conflict that I've encountered in the last 30 plus years, and how they get entangled together instead of being distinct the way I will distinguish them. They get entangled together, and that's why we get in such a mess. And so I'll just tell you what they are. They're expectations, values, like actual live by values, not what you were taught, not what you preach, what you organize your life around. Verified needs, meaning big cost to not get them, big payoff to get them, and preferences. And these 4 different categories of conflict interact with each other in ways that can destroy anything or satisfy my my standard is I'm not done till I'm glad it happened. So any conflict on the other side, we're going to be, oh, thank goodness that came up. And I think that's possible, especially when we treat each other with respect and pay attention to what we require, but that doesn't make the other person wrong. Just not a fit. Does that help?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks. You'll be glad to know that I am, I'm really good at filtering. So I won't meet in person until, there's like a lot of messaging and, good communication going across, and, a nice, I call it just a nice volleying, right? Like tennis volleying back and forth.
Okay.
And then,
I would just caution you against one thing.
yes.
Messaging. I would strongly recommend you get out of the message zone as quickly as possible. And the reason for this is because of the effect of the written word, especially on women. It can literally cause the oxytocin bond. You can end up bonding to someone through messaging. And messaging is really efficient. If you're operating on a dating app, you could be messaging 15 or 20 people at the same time. You use keyboard substitution on your phone. You can push in 2 letters and it fills in a whole sentence. And someone's interpreting that as a real communication. I just would watch messaging. I would have one message, and the message back is, let's set up a time to talk. And the messaging I would do after that is for scheduling purposes.
Yeah. And so then FaceTime, and then if there's, you know, great dialogue, then and like shared values and all the things that you talk about, then in person, but rarely do I meet in person. But I have a question. You said verified.
I'm actually going to interrupt just because we have 2 more hands up and we only
yes.
have 4 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander.
Good to see you, Kimmy.
Would you say your name for me?
Yeah, sure. It's Castriel.
One more time.
Castriel.
Castriel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Castriel.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. It's Hebrew.
Ah,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time today. I'm at work right now, but I did my best to pay attention. I wanted to know, does your book, it seems like it's more addressed to women. But you know, like I feel like in my marriage, I'm divorced now, but in my marriage, I'm more of like a open heart kind of big feelings type of guy, and I get I get hurt a lot when, you know, my wife would have complaints or she would have you know, we'd get into arguments, and I wasn't able to kind of resolve things with her. And I was wondering, you know, I'm trying to look for tools to kind of work on that, to kind of be less emotional about things, or get less hurt when you know, either with my wife, or my future wife, or, you know, just friends or family, when they're kind of either unhappy with something I've done or something I've said, or just reacting to something they've said. So I was wondering if you could kind of direct me with that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. When you say my book, there's a Queen's Code. Are you referring to the Queen's Code?
Right. I went on Amazon. I saw the Queen's. I was looking at the Queen's Code, but I saw you have many other books. So
yeah. Well, so I've only published 3 books: Keys to the Kingdom, the Queen's Code, and Making Sense of Men. All the rest are audio recordings. And on Audible, everything on Audible is going on 20 years old now, actually. All the new stuff is on our website. And I strongly recommend the audiobook of the Queen's Code, because otherwise you're going to be filtering the words through your reality, where if you listen to me read it to you, you'll hear it with the actual inflection and degree of emotion and intensity and sincerity as it was happening. And what I mean by what was happening is, Keys of the Kingdom and the Queen's Code, I didn't actually write. I literally typed them. A screen opened up, a movie started playing. I typed as fast as I could. Queen's Code is 96,000 words. It took me 3 weeks to type it. Physically impossible to write a book in that amount of time. And it's becoming part of the men's movement, the Queen's Code, because yes, I wrote it to transform the way women relate to men, but I couldn't imagine at the time that men reading it, and especially listening to it, it can transform the way you relate to yourself, and especially to understand the goodness of your motives. They're so good, and women don't know them. And women will actually attack men for doing things that came from a beautiful place because they don't understand it. And if you can start to see the worst of women's behavior as an expression of fear and frustration, which is what it is, it's fear and frustration, all stuck with this super glue of you're supposed to act like a woman. This expectation that is unexamined. And I just would invite you to listen to it, and listen to it from really the possibility that you could become impervious to women's attack. You could become impervious to a criticism or a complaint. You could see where it's coming from. You could honor yourself first, and you could stand up to it, which is one of the most important things that women need from men. We need you to stand up to us. We know we're full of baloney and we're terrified. And we know what's coming out of our mouth. It probably isn't even true. And we need your strength to know you're like, no, that's not true. And that's nonsense. If you want to have a conversation about it, see if we can work this out, I'm happy to do that. But no, I'm not going to take this tie, right? You no. It's one of the first things my boyfriend said to me. That felt a lot like criticism, and I stopped taking that a long time ago. I was like, yes. I was also mortified. The Alison Armstrong criticized a man, but I was scared. As usual, it turned out I was scared. So I would encourage that. And the only thing I would say to you, so thank you for telling me your name is Hebrew, because there are people all over the world. The Queen's Code has been bought in, I don't even know. I know it's over 70 countries. It was 55 countries just in the last 6-week period was bought in 55 countries. And people are having trouble because it's not a translation into English. It has to be interpreted. And I have someone in Israel who's committed to translating the Queen's Code into Hebrew and came up with a word. There's a word in English that in Hebrew apparently is horrible to men. one of the words in the, I'll just tell you, one of the words in the Hebrew language, it's literally called the Hebrew language. One of the words in the Hebrew language in English is save. And we make a distinction between helping and saving. And it's a really important distinction. But my understanding is in Hebrew, the equivalent word for save is ghastly. His Israeli men is special. They're just like, don't ever say that. So I just would give you that caveat. But I would encourage that. And if you wanted to, before that, listen to Keys to the Kingdom. It's the prequel. And it's got a lot of things in it, but it's arranged around the development of men and what happens to a man when he goes from being a prince to a king. Because it dramatically affects what you need and what you can provide and what you will not put up with anymore.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. I'm going to check it out.
You're welcome. And if you listen to me, read to me, you'll just have hours and hours of being admired by a woman who loves me.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds great.
It's good for the soul.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, should we do Tim and then wrap it up, Alexandra?
Yes,
He's
that
had
sounds
his
perfect
hand
as
up.
long as you're good. Are you good
I'm
with that?
good. Yeah.
Hi,
we can
Alice.
do-
Hi, Allison. Hi, Alexandra. First of all, big fan, been following your work for years. And also I am part of leadership for a worldwide men's community. And I recommend your work to all of our men, in particular, the Queen's Code for sure. And I want to tell you that many of the men react in a very specific way to that book, is that they get choked up and they cry. It's pretty extraordinary because what you just said, being acknowledged and seen by a woman, maybe for the first time in their life, is very moving for them. So I just want to thank you for that. I want to just quickly go back. I know we don't have a lot of time, but it's amazing to me how often this idea of, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, comes up in our community. And it doesn't come up positively. Okay. There's a lot of pushback on this. 2 days ago, I was leading a Zoom meeting with 45 guys, and it came up again. And there was a lot of discussion on, I don't owe anyone an apology. Just a lot of positioning around. And so when you said the idea of noble, being generous, I would love to have a little more information to bring back to my community about that because I've tried to explain that this is a gift you're giving, not something you owe them. There's a real upset around owing someone, owing a woman an apology.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt their feelings. Their feelings, are their feelings, and somehow they're going to stand on that. And I'm like, well, I
I
quote
get
you,
it.
do you want a partnership or not? So
Yeah. Well,
that's the
can I
question.
ask the name of your community?
Yes, Good Guys to Great Men is .com is one of them, one part of it. We also have an online course called How to Diffuse the Divorce Bomb.
Wow.
We also do a thing called the Confident Man Ranch Retreat, a number
Wow.
of times a year for men.
That's awesome.
So it's got a
Yeah.
lot of moving parts.
Okay. Well, one thing I would just invite you to do, and I'm willing to do it, is just have me come talk to them with you about
Mhm.
it.
That would be
Instead of
yes, please.
it's yeah, if you just go to our website under contact us, it'll say media, and
Mhm.
you can just reach out and tell them what you're looking for unless they want to interact with you. But here's the thing. There's several parts of this. One of them is that very good reason, for very good reason, men are going to be incredibly resistant to saying I was wrong.
Mm.
And the good reason is that historically it's been used against you. You haven't gotten credit for that. Thank you for owning that. How can we do better next time? Yeah, finally you admit you're wrong. And now I'm going to recycle that every 3 months for the next 30 years.
Right.
Right? So understanding there's a very good reason for reticence, right? You there hasn't been a payoff.
Mm.
There just hasn't been a payoff. And then yes, and I even witnessed this. Oh, I saw it. A mother told her 10-year-old son, you said something to your sister that made her feel bad.
Yeah.
You need to go fix that. And I just cringed, like, it begins. Men are responsible for our feelings. No, you're not responsible for our feelings. The interpretation that happens in our head happens so fast, you couldn't get ahead of it if you tried to. We are already down the path of you don't love me, you don't care about me, you don't respect me, you're never going to provide for me, you're never going to give me what I need, and I'm going to die. we're down that path so quickly. And so if as a man you can understand this is a way literally to save yourself. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings will save you from being burnt to a crisp by a 30-foot fire breathing dragon. Say the magic words for yourself. Mean them. I am sorry I hurt your feelings. And in the back of your head, because I am in a deep bit of trouble right now and I don't know how to get out. So I am sorry I hurt your feelings.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Wrap your head around it. But this is self-preservation. Those words are self-preservation. If you want to, at the just like at the first level. And then yes, it restores partnership, it preserves partnership. And also if a woman's feelings, if her hurt feelings aren't well and truly healed, like poof, disappeared, which they can be. And because you can't remember what they said they were sorry for, you can't remember what they did. I don't know what he did, but he said he was sorry they hurt my feelings. Isn't he the best? Right? When they're truly healed, we can't remember what happened because it's a spiritual event. And it if that doesn't happen, the consequence is inevitably women's sexuality will shut down. It'll be a loss of sex and intimacy, of pleasure, pleasing, loverness, everything in that domain of physical, emotional intimacy will get shut down if she's not restored from her feelings. And vice versa. If you guys aren't restored from being disrespected, you'll withdraw. You'll shut down physically. So all the goodies rely upon this.
Thank you. This is gold. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'll be in touch with your team.
Look
Okay.
forward to seeing you again.
All right.
Okay, Alexandra, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, that was amazing, Allison. Thank you. I so appreciate you for your deep commitment, your wisdom, your like curiosity that has lasted for decades, and your willingness to just keep going down the path and giving us so much wisdom, and also just the levity and lightness. I always appreciate your humor. And it can be an intense conversation sometimes if you're dealing with conflict and just relationships in general. You're such a
Yep.
great storyteller. You're hilarious. And you make it like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And I can laugh. And it's going to be okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
for
appreciate
that.
you.
Thank you for seeing me, and you're most welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Sending you all so much love. And like Allison said, check out all of her amazing courses and all of her wisdom. And Allison, have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.